Both pathologies have an alteration of the microbiota. However, in one there is an alteration of the nervous system, while in the other it is more of an alteration of the immune system. On one hand, there is an overgrowth of Clostridium and Candida, and on the other hand, a decrease in bacteria such as bifidobacteria. I am going to emphasize both autism and Parkinson's. I won't go into it fully because I won't have time. I could give an entire presentation just on Parkinson's. But, well, what I'm going to say is mainly about the studies, what has been observed, what happens with the microbiota in these two pathologies. What alterations are there in the microbiota? Well, in autism, what has been most observed is that there is an overgrowth of Clostridium difficile. It is a proteolytic bacterium that is often seen in Clostridium, and it is frequently altered in consultation. And I repeat, this is not an infection. They are part of our microbiota, simply altered. They have been altered either by the type of diet or because we have taken antibiotics, or due to stress, or due to the birth itself. If the mother had an alteration in that microbiota during pregnancy, the child will be born with an alteration in the microbiota. That is why it is so important to prepare for pregnancy and so important to treat the mother during pregnancy so that the baby's microbiota is stable. Above all, the overgrowth of Clostridium and Candida will produce an excess of ammonia, and that excess of ammonia and metabolites have neurotoxic properties. Autism, treat the intestines no matter what. I have seen many improvements in children with autism by giving them a diet that is low in gluten, low in dairy, and treating that overgrowth while supplementing them with probiotics. I am not saying that the pathology will be cured. I am saying that it will be halted, and we will indeed help them, especially if they are treated from a very young age. I believe the youngest child I have treated for autism was about 1.5 years old. They were twins. One of them, if I remember correctly, had more dermatitis pathology, more intolerance reactions, and digestive symptoms, while the other did end up having autism. Both pathologies have an alteration of the microbiota, but in one there is an alteration of the nervous system, while in the other it is more of an alteration of the immune system. On one hand, there is an overgrowth of Clostridium and Candida, and on the other hand, a decrease in bacteria such as bifidobacteria, which I have noted there, along with an increase in the harmful bacteria called Bacteroides. All of this will influence the axis that I mentioned before, the gut-brain axis, functioning properly. After eliminating the overgrowth of Clostridium or Candida, which I have already mentioned are the most common, it is after eliminating the overgrowth that probiotics will be introduced. This is a fairly common mistake that is made, which is to introduce probiotics from the very beginning. To treat dysbiosis, the first thing to do is to clean the mucosa. Probiotics cannot be introduced directly. It is best to reduce inflammation in the intestine, repair that mucosa with glutamine and with fibers that help us repair the mucosa, and to clean out all the overgrowth that may be present, whether they are viruses, candida, or bacteria. And when everything is clean and de-inflamed, that is the time to supplement. In the end, those bacteria that we introduce need to build their homes. They need to colonize the intestine. For that, the intestine must be healthy. It is very important to first go through a phase of cleaning, reducing inflammation, and eliminating overgrowth before supplementing. Okay, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but just this morning, I had a Parkinson's patient. I really enjoy treating Parkinson's because it helps them a lot. And they come to the consultation very desperate, taking their L-DOPA medication, the dopamine, which is usually given for Parkinson's, and no one has been able to look into what is happening inside their gut. And I say it never fails that patients with Parkinson's have alterations, especially in transit. The woman from this morning had irritable bowel syndrome, alternating diarrhea with constipation, but I already say that most patients with Parkinson's have a greater tendency to have constipation. There are often also poor digestions, feces with a very strong odor because there is an excess of proteolytic bacteria. Proteolytic bacteria, like the enterobacteria I mentioned, produce sulfur, mainly feeding on proteolytic proteins and producing sulfur, which is why they will produce a stronger odor in both gases. and feces. There is also a decrease in Lactobacillus dendrococcus and fecalis bacteria, and of course a decrease in short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, or propionate to treat constipation, since I'm at it. It's not just a matter of drinking a lot of water and being careful with excess fiber. Many times what is lacking is fat. We drink a lot of water when there is constipation. When you have an increase in intestinal permeability and drink a lot of water, what you do is urinate a lot. And when there is a mismatch in that mucosa, the balance of fluids is not produced, and a lot of liquid is entering through the intestine, and what we do is urinate. So we are like a faucet. We drink, we urinate, we drink, we urinate, and still we have dry stools and constipation. So it's not so much about drinking a lot of liquid. What I try to do is to have you consume more gel-like foods such as aloe vera or psyllium, hydrated psyllium, chia, or flaxseed. Everything needs to be hydrated because what interests me is the gel, not so much the fiber. It is quite counterproductive to take dry fiber when we have constipation. If you have constipation, and what you do is add dry fiber, that fiber will increase the size of the fecal mass, but it will remain dry and will not come out. It is even more difficult to expel feces that are very large due to excessive fiber consumption and that are drying out all the fiber. When there is constipation, it has to be moist. You need to hydrate dried fruits, wash, and hydrate all cereals. And I say we need to encourage more consumption of gels and not so much water. Hydrated fiber, liquid intake, obviously. And something very important is fat. It is fat, as I was saying, feed those bacteria, thus increasing peristalsis. Peristalsis is the movement of the intestine. It will help the intestine to move, but it will also make the feces more slippery. If the stools are dry and the intestine is not moving, a lot of effort is needed to expel those stools. There is a lack of fat. So raw olive oil, flaxseed oil, coconut oil, and the butyrate that I mentioned. Send a lot of ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. What they do is, well, they decant and separate the protein part from the caseins, which are the most inflammatory, and we are left only with the fatty part of the butter. That ghee, that clarified butter, is very rich in butyrate and works very well, super well as an energy fuel, and as I said, to help with bowel movements. It has a stronger flavor than butter, but it's good. There is also often the presence of Helicobacter pylori overgrowth of Helicobacter. It doesn't have to be, but it is sometimes seen, and this will also disrupt the pH of the stomach. Therefore, not digesting well will affect the intestinal mucosa. And what has also been observed is high levels of homocysteine. Homocysteine levels rise when there is a deficiency of B vitamins. Then I will emphasize B vitamins a lot because they are always low when there is a disturbance in the nervous system. So homocysteine decreases when there is it rises, when there is a deficiency of vitamin B, B, and B. But I already say that I always supplement B vitamins when there is a disturbance in the nervous system. These B vitamins, as we will see later, act as cofactors, as coenzymes in the reactions of the nervous system. That is, when I want to transform an amino acid into a neurotransmitter, for example, I want to transform tryptophan into serotonin. I need, besides the enzymes that will convert those two substances, what are called cofactors. Those cofactors are vitamins or minerals, and among them will be the entire group of B vitamins. To transform tryptophan into serotonin, then I will see the reaction. It is essential that vitamin B, for example, or B6 would also be very necessary, and magnesium are present. If those minerals are missing, that conversion will not occur. So it's not a matter of taking a lot of tryptophan, but sometimes it's not that tryptophan is lacking, but rather the vitamins that help that tryptophan transform. The same happens with the amino acids that turn into dopamine.